E.T. I love you.
E.T. extraterrestrial. He's crash landed on Earth, is alone, frightened, and trying to evade the government. When the lonely boy, Elliot, discovers him in the backyard and lures E.T. into the house by leaving a trail of chocolate. Because E.T. has not read Hansel and Gretel, so knows no better. They soon become friends and help each other along the way. The government are soon on the trail though, as E.T. wants to phone home and get back to his planet, whilst making everyone's bikes fly past the moon and doing magical things with his glowing finger. This amazing family film stands the test of time. It is a fantastic movie. So let's go ahead and discover 10 groovy facts about E.T.
Number 1. The almost sequel to another Spielberg classic.
Spielberg was hot property. After directing 3 of the biggest blockbusters in the galaxy, with the movie that made you afraid to go in the water, even on bath night, Jaws in 1975, and just 2 years later, the sci-fi blockbusters, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and everyone's favourite fedora-wearing character. No, not that one. Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark in 1981. Columbia Pictures, who had released Close Encounters of the Third Kind, wanted a sequel fast to capitalise on the success. Steven Spielberg didn't want to make a sequel, but felt Columbia were going to make it anyway, so felt he had to be involved. It sown the seed of an idea about an alien joining forces with a family to fight against some bloodthirsty aliens. He asked screenwriter John Sayles to write the script, called Night Skies. It was a darker, more sinister movie, and Spielberg decided not to make it. The idea did fester though, so he asked screenwriter Melissa Matheson to write the script. Her first draft was so amazing, it was actually the final script, which is unheard of in Hollywood, with many scripts going through changes before reaching the silver screen. At the time of writing, Melissa Matheson was dating Harrison Ford, and asked his 2 young sons what powers they thought an alien would display. They insisted an alien should be able to heal when you get hurt by touch alone, which is where E.T. gets his healing fingering touch from. The movie was now titled E.T.
Number 2. The E.T. design.
Whilst E.T. was loitering around in script form as the darker, creepier alien in the Night Sky script, Spielberg asked one of the greatest special effects artists in the world, Rick Baker, to design E.T. The E.T. look went through various stages, but Spielberg was not happy. Almost $1 million was spent on the designs, which were not even used. By all accounts, Spielberg fell out with Rick Baker and refused to work with him again until many years later, when they both collaborated, but sadly only for Spielberg produced movies, not directed by Spielberg movies. Spielberg produced movies such as Gremlins 2 and Men in Black. I feel a bit sorry for Rick Baker, because he was surely only doing what he felt was right for Night Skies, the more sinister, creepier movie that became the family-friendly E.T. I think his designs were incredibly creepy and well thought out. Spielberg now turned to Carlo Rambaldi, who had worked on Alien and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, so his background in alien design was perfecto. Rambaldi, also a well-received artist, used one of his own paintings, Woman of Delta, which shows a stumpy, wrinkled older lady with large eyes and long spiny neck as inspiration for his E.T. design, a painting that my mother also uses for her passport photo. Rambaldi also used Albert Einstein's face as inspiration for E.T. Einstein, phone home. Spielberg was impressed with the concept design and gave the go-ahead.
Number 3. Casting the kids.
From the moon.
Now some of you may not have realised, I know I certainly didn't, until researching this video. For more than half of the movie, you don't see any adult faces with the exception of Elliot's mum. This was a conscious effort to make you more aware this is from the children's perspective and how important they are to the movie. So casting the kids was one of the most important aspects. The character of Elliot had that inner sadness and bewilderment that without a word gave you a lot of insight into the character, who was going through the traumatic divorce of his parents, something most kids struggled to deal with. Henry Thomas auditioned for the role of Elliot. At the audition, a crew member acted out the role of a government agent during an emotional moment where Elliot has to plead with the agent not to take E.T. away. Henry Thomas thought of the time his dog died and started to cry.
He's mine, and he lives with me, and he likes me, and he wants to stay here. He likes it here.
The audition moved Spielberg to tears. "You're gonna cry, Spielberg. You're gonna cry." Spielberg eyed him on the spot. The casting of Gertie, played by the always excellent Drew Barrymore, was a bit more problematic. Sarah Michelle Gellar, aka Buffy the Vampire Slayer, actually auditioned for the role of Gertie. Who knows, if Sarah Michelle Gellar got the role, she might have pulled a stake out and stabbed E.T. in the chest. Now that would have been a different type of movie altogether. Drew Barrymore had actually auditioned for the role of Carol Ann in the movie Poltergeist, which was being produced by Spielberg at the time. She obviously didn't get the role, but Spielberg remembered her, especially at her audition where she ad-libbed. Told Spielberg she was in a rock band playing the drums, you know, like you do at the age of 6. He gave her the part and she was perfect, as pretty much any 6-year-old kid might do. She would often ask questions only kids would ask, not realising they were shooting. Such as when she saw the E.T. puppet had a load of wires sticking out of its feet and asked,
I don't like his feet.
This was kept in the film. When Elliot told her only kids can see E.T., she said,
Give me a break.
This was also kept in, as she thought Henry Thomas was being serious. She was amazing in the role, as all the kids were.
Number 5, the worst video game ever.
E.T. was a huge success. Everybody loved E.T. So the video game was surely going to be great, right? But the title of this chapter is an obvious clue to the answer to that one. So how did this come to be? Way back in 1981, Howard Scott Warshaw was an amazingly talented computer programmer who had a job working for Atari. For those too young to remember, Atari was like the PlayStation and Xbox for the kids during the 80s. Except they were a bit shit, but back then we loved it. Atari gave Howard Warshaw the task of creating a game based on Raiders of the Lost Ark, which he did in 10 months, after very high praise from Spielberg himself, saying the game was just like watching the movie. Okay. When the movie was finished, it was decided a video game by Atari would be made. Spielberg requested Howard Scott Warshaw create it, but he was only given 5 short weeks to do it. When Atari asked if he could achieve it in such a short time, Warshaw said, and I quote, "I don't know exactly what I was full of at the time, but whatever it was, I was overflowing with it." Howard, you may have been overflowing with bullshit, mate. According to Howard Warshaw, the Atari workplace was full of sex, drugs and booze. So whether this impacted on the creation of what is considered to be the world's worst video game, who knows? But I think you'd have to be on booze and drugs to actually like this game. Spielberg hated it, and after a short spell in the chart, a lot of the remaining copies by all accounts were ordered by Spielberg to be sent to a landfill site and buried forever, just like the traumatic memories of kids who received the game for Christmas and were horrified to find it wasn't so much E.T., it was shit tea.
Number 6, the illegal soundtrack release.
There was a lot of merchandise based on E.T., such as bikes, soft toys, books, sticker albums, lunchboxes, and even the Universal Studios theme park ride. But one of the most interesting ones is a vinyl record that contained a Michael Jackson song called Someone in the Dark, and Michael Jackson himself narrating this E.T., or should that be E.T., in which he can be clearly heard crying his eyes out during the E.T. death scene. Because as Jackson was recording it, he could not control his emotions during narration of that moment, and Quincy Jones, the producer of the record, knew he would do it every time, so decided to just let it be.
His starfire was out. He was as cold as the moon. He was gone.
A publicity shot of Michael Jackson with an E.T. animatronic model was used to promote the record. Jackson felt the puppet was so real, he hugged it and kissed it on the head and said goodbye, and the next day missed him so much it made him emotional. The audiobook album was to be released by Epic Records, but there were stipulations by MCA Records. who owned the rights to the Someone in the Dark song placed on the album. It was stated the song could not be released as a single, but Epic Records ignored this clause and released it as a single. They were taken to court and the single was pulled from the shelves after just a few weeks. It remains one of Michael Jackson's rarest records. The album itself actually received the Grammy Award for Best Recording for Children.
Number 7 Alleged copyright issues.
E.T. itself wasn't taken to court because E.T. is an angel, but Spielberg was accused of plagiarism, and in one case he was taken to court. Let me explain. Satyajit Ray, a prolific film director and scriptwriter, wrote a script called The Alien, based on one of his own short stories from 1962. It was going to be an Indian production in alliance with Columbia Pictures, and at one point had Marlon Brando and Peter Sellers attached to the movie, but after several issues the project was abandoned. The script had been floating around for a decade or so, when it was revived again in the 70s by Columbia Pictures, but once again it was dropped. When the E.T. movie came out, Satyajit Ray stated the film had plagiarised his script. Spielberg denied this, but there are a couple of admittedly uncanny similarities. The alien, known as Mr. Ang, befriends a young boy called Abba, which by all accounts means dumb in Bengali, which may have changed people's outlook on E.T. had he gone around calling Elliot dumb. Elliot, you're dumb. In Ray's screenplay there is also a scene where the alien passes his hand over a small plant and flowers start to sprout out. Spielberg denied having ever seen the script before creating E.T. and Satyajit Ray did not want to pursue legal action against Spielberg, being a big fan of his work. Did Spielberg use some of the ideas from Satyajit Ray's script? Who knows? In 1984, Lisa Litchfield took Universal to court. She alleged E.T. stole her idea from a musical play she had written called Loki from Maldemar. The play was about two aliens, Loki and Fedinko, who befriended three kids and used powers such as telekinesis and force field, also travelling the globe and meeting a witch. The play was submitted to Universal in 1978, who eventually rejected it. Lisa Litchfield was not happy when she saw E.T. as she believed she was being ripped off. Because of all those scenes where he travelled the world and met a witch in the Andes mountain, I must have forgotten about that. Universal and Spielberg were being sued to the tune of a whopping $785 million, or £565 million in pounds sterling. Whoosh! The case though was quickly thrown out of court, and quite rightfully so in my opinion.
Number 8 Restricted in Scandinavia.
E.T., one of the most beloved family films of all time. So sweet, so innocent. So, wait, it was banned in some Scandinavian countries? What is this madness? Upon its theatrical release in 1982, Sweden's Board of Film Censorship slapped an age restriction upon it, citing you had to be 11 years or older. In Finland, you had to be at least 8. Staggeringly, in Norway, you had to be at least 12. Reasons given for the restrictions were because the film portrays the government and adults in general as enemies of the children. All children must learn to obey. Sweden's board also believed the films would be a bit scary for children, which I find strange because I was watching zombie films and Evil Dead when I was a kid. Young people in Sweden would try and sneak into the cinema and even protested outside cinemas with placards. Luckily, they did not go into full riot mode and tear buildings down and set fire to cars. The Scandinavian Board of Film Classification have since lowered the age rating for all to enjoy. Sweden's chief censor in 1982 was Gunnar Hardback, who was responsible for making Swedish kids cry when she banned them from seeing the movie. Since she retired in 2007, she has actually gone on record to say the film was restricted because most kids under 11 cannot read subtitles, as Sweden do not dub foreign films. This is actually a plausible reason, but this was never once mentioned until 2007, after years of ridicule over the frankly silly decision, but who knows, maybe that was the reason, although I doubt it. How do you make a pool table laugh? Tickle its balls.
Number 9 The Sequels.
I'll be right.
Wait, what? In the name of E.T.'s Y fronts am I talking about, I hear you cry? Where are these sequels I've never seen? Well, let me fill you in. When E.T. became a global success, Steven Spielberg and co-writer Melissa Matheson began work on E.T. Part 2, titled Nocturnal Fears. The story centred around Elliot and his gang, discovering a spaceship full of evil red-eyed aliens with fangs who would go on to kidnap the kid, so E.T. comes to the rescue. This sounds like such a departure from the tone and family-friendly feel of the first E.T. movie. Was E.T. going to come down like Rambo and blow the aliens' heads off, as he'd been practicing martial arts whilst he's been back at home? The sequel was scrapped, as Spielberg felt it would rob the original of some of its innocence. I'm glad he did, because some films don't need sequels, and this is one of them. William Catwinkle was an author hired to write the tie-in novel based on the first E.T., released in 1982, and in 1985 he delved once more into the E.T. universe, releasing a sequel titled E.T. The Book of the Green Planet. In the book we find out E.T. is 10 million years old, almost as old as me. He is also a being who is not even of our universe, and actually comes from another dimension. E.T. makes a spaceship out of plants, so we can fly back to Elliot, all the while interacting with other creatures, with such names as Flopgopple. Seriously? Flopgopple? E.T. did actually get to meet Elliot once more on screen though in 2019 when Sky TV, a British broadcasting service, got the rights to create a short movie to promote their service. Henry Thomas once more reprises his role, although he's now a lot older, with kids of his own. Set during Christmas time, E.T. visits Elliot, but says he cannot stay for long as he too has a family to get back to. Maybe he pop back to Earth to buy Christmas presents. Maybe give his kid the E.T. Blu-ray to show them what their daddy's like when he's on Earth. It's a charming little movie that is kind of heartwarming.
Number 10. The John Williams score.
There's no way I could do a Groovy Facts about E.T. episode without mentioning John Williams, one of the greatest composers in living history. I don't know how he does it. He's exceptional, and somehow just seems to capture the essence and mood of any film he scores. John Williams has composed some of the most iconic movie scores you will ever hear, such as the Indiana Jones movies, Jaws, Superman, Star Wars, and of course E.T. E.T. is a truly beautiful, haunting, inspiring composition. John Williams actually won his 4th Oscar, and he also won a Golden Globe and a BAFTA for E.T. John Williams recorded the score at the MGM scoring stage in California, with the final chase scene where the government agents pursue the kids on their bikes. John Williams admitted he was struggling to make the music fit, as due to the editing it had quieter scenes interlocked with the more frenetic scenes. Spielberg was so in love with the music so far that he told John Williams to ignore the finale scenes and just create the music, to which Spielberg later edited the finale to fit the music. Now that is some respect right there. And there you have it, 10 groovy facts about E.T. Regarded as a classic and deservedly so. One of my fondest memories though was when my niece was watching it, and at the moment E.T. says goodbye, she turned round and looked at me and she had tears brimming in her eyes, and I could feel myself welling up. It was a beautiful moment in an extremely beautiful film. And it's staggering to think that a film over 30 years old can still capture the arts and imaginations of kids today. Goodbye. Phone home. What is E.T. short for? Because he has small legs. Why does Santa Claus have a big sack? Because he only comes once a year.